Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. You know how this works by now. You give us the topic you want to hear about, and then we do all the research and present you with, a summary of the most interesting stuff that we find.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're doing all the hard work so you don't have to.
That's right. So today's deep dive is into resilience in kids and how to build it. This was a listener-requested topic, and judging by the amount of material out there, well, it's a very hot topic these days.
It really is. I think a lot of parents and educators are realizing just how important resilience is, especially in today's world.
For sure. The world is changing so fast, and kids are facing all sorts of new challenges. So it's more important than ever to equip them with the tools they need to not just cope, but to actually thrive.
Exactly. And that's really what resilience is all about. It's not just about bouncing back from setbacks. It's about being able to adapt to change, to overcome challenges, and to keep growing even when things get tough.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What does resilience actually look like in a child? I mean, I feel like sometimes the word resilience can be a little bit abstract.
Yeah, it can be. But let me try to give you a concrete example. Imagine a child who's building a tower out of blocks and it suddenly collapses. A resilient child might feel frustrated for a moment. Sure, that's natural. But they're able to recognize that frustration, take a breath, and then say, okay, how can I build this tower even stronger?
Oh, I love that example.
Yeah.
So it's not about not experiencing negative emotions.
Right.
It's about how they respond to them.
Exactly. It's about having the ability to regulate their emotions, to problem solve, and to persevere even when things don't go their way. And one of the key ingredients to building that resilience is a growth mindset.
Oh, yeah, the growth mindset.
Yeah.
That came up a lot in the research. Can you explain what exactly a growth mindset is and why it's so important for kids?
Sure. So a growth mindset is basically the belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and learning. It's the opposite of a fixed mindset, which is a belief that you're born with a certain amount of intelligence and that's it.
Oh, so it's like saying, I haven't learned this yet, instead of saying, I can't do this.
Yes, exactly. That's a great way to put it. And that simple shift in language can make a huge difference. When kids believe that they can improve with practice, they're more likely to embrace challenges and persist even when things get tough.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because if you believe that your abilities are fixed, then why even bother trying, right? You either have it or you don't.
Right. And studies have actually shown that children who are praised for their effort rather than their intelligence are more likely to persevere when faced with difficult problems. They see setbacks as a natural part of learning.
Wow, that's fascinating. So how can parents and educators actually help kids develop a growth mindset? Is it just about using the right words?
Well, it's definitely part of it, but it's also about creating a learning environment where mistakes are seen as opportunities for growth. So instead of punishing kids for making mistakes, we should encourage them to learn from them.
That reminds me of something that one of the experts said in the material. They said something like, instead of saying, you got that wrong, try saying, that's interesting. What can we learn from this?
Oh, I like that. It's all about framing it as a learning experience rather than a failure. And it's also important to model a growth mindset ourselves. Kids are always watching us, so if we're constantly complaining about how we're not good at something, they're going to pick up on that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, kids are like little sponges. They absorb everything. So we have to be mindful of the messages we're sending them. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of a growth mindset. Now let's move on to another crucial aspect of resilience, emotional intelligence.
Yes, emotional intelligence is all about being able to understand and manage our emotions. And it's such a vital skill for kids to learn because it helps them to navigate the ups and downs of life, to build healthy relationships, and to make good decisions.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people associate emotional intelligence with being like, really calm and zen all the time. But it's not about that, is it?
No, not at all. It's not about suppressing our emotions. It's about learning to recognize and understand them and then to choose healthy ways to express them. Think of it this way. Emotions are like waves. We can't stop them from coming, but we can learn to surf.
Okay, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So how can we teach kids to surf those emotional waves?
Well, one of the most effective methods is called stop, name, and calm. It's a simple 3-step process that helps kids to pause when they're feeling overwhelmed, identify the emotion they're experiencing, and then choose a calming strategy.
Okay, so can you break that down a little bit more? Like what kind of calming strategies can kids use?
There are lots of different options. Some kids might find it helpful to take some deep breaths. Others might want to talk it out with a trusted adult. And still others might need some time alone to process their emotions. The key is to help kids find what works best for them.
That's really interesting. And it makes me think about another great analogy that I came across in the research. Have you ever heard of the balloon game?
The balloon game. No, I don't think so. Tell me more.
Okay, so in the balloon game, you have kids blow up a balloon for every frustration they feel. And then you ask them what happens if we keep all that air bottled up.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. The balloon eventually pops.
Exactly. And that's such a powerful visual for teaching kids about healthy emotional release. It shows them that acknowledging and processing our emotions is much healthier than suppressing them.
Absolutely. And just like that balloon needs a safe release, kids need healthy ways to tackle challenges head on. And that's where problem solving comes in.
Yes. Problem solving is another essential skill for building resilience. I mean, let's face it, life is full of problems, and we can't always solve them for our kids.
Right. And in fact, it's better if we don't, because when we solve all their problems for them, we're not giving them the opportunity to develop their own problem-solving skills.
So how can we guide kids through the problem-solving process without actually giving them the answers?
Well, one way is to ask them open-ended questions, like what are some possible solutions to this problem? Or what are the pros and cons of each option?
And I imagine it's also important to let kids make mistakes and to learn from them.
Oh, absolutely. Mistakes are a valuable part of the learning process. And when kids are allowed to make mistakes in a safe and supportive environment, they learn that it's okay to fail. and they develop the confidence to try again.
That reminds me of one activity that I saw that really stood out to me. It's called the Obstacle Course Challenge.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. Tell me about it.
Okay, so basically you set up an obstacle course, and kids have to figure out how to navigate through the obstacles. They can work together, they can try different approaches, they can learn from their mistakes, and in the end, they not only develop problem-solving skills, but they also build confidence and resilience.
I love that. It's such a fun and engaging way to learn. And it also teaches them the importance of teamwork and perseverance. Now, while kids gain a lot from tackling challenges independently, it's also important to remind them that they're not alone.
That's such an important point. And it brings us to another key ingredient of resilience: social support.
Exactly. Having strong relationships with family, friends, and other supportive adults gives kids a sense of belonging and security, and it provides them with a buffer against stress and adversity.
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget how important those connections are.
Mm.
Because when we feel connected to others, we feel like we have people we can rely on when things get tough.
Mhm.
And that can make a world of difference.
And it's not just about having people to turn to for help. It's also about being able to offer support to others.
That's interesting. Why is that important?
Well, because when we help others, it gives us a sense of purpose and meaning. And it reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles.
Okay, so social support is crucial. Are there any other key ingredients that we need to talk about?
Oh, yes. We can't forget about optimism and positivity.
Ah, yes, the power of positive thinking. I feel like that's been a popular topic for a long time.
Yeah.
But is there any actual scientific evidence to support it?
There actually is. Studies have shown that people who have a more optimistic outlook on life tend to be more resilient. They're better able to cope with stress. They're more likely to achieve their goals. And they even tend to be healthier.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So how can we help kids develop a more optimistic outlook?
Well, one way is to encourage them to focus on the good things in their lives, even when things are tough. And one simple activity that you can do with kids is to create a gratitude tree.
A gratitude tree. That sounds interesting. How does that work?
Well, it's really simple. You just get a big piece of paper and draw a tree trunk. And then you have kids write or draw things that they're grateful for on leaves. And then they attach the leaves to the tree.
Oh, I love that. It's such a visual and tangible way to cultivate gratitude.
Yeah, and it's a great reminder that even when things are tough, there's always something to be thankful for. And that can really help to shift our perspective and boost our mood.
So there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into resilience in kids. We've covered a lot of ground today, but the key takeaways are this. Resilience is not something that kids are born with. It's a set of skills and habits that can be learned and developed over time.
Exactly. And by focusing on things like growth mindset, emotional intelligence, problem solving, social support, and optimism, we can help our kids build the resilience they need to thrive in today's world.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be bumps along the way. But with our support and guidance, our kids can learn to navigate those challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
Absolutely. And here's a final thought for you to ponder. How can you model these resilient skills in your own life? Because remember, children learn by watching us. So by embracing challenges, managing our own emotions, and finding the good, even in tough times, we become the living examples of resilience that our children need.
That's a great point to end on. So until next time, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Yep.